To make a great sandwich, you need great ingredients, and the same goes for your work and yourself. The way you layer them, balance them, and maybe even toast them a little, that's what makes something memorable. I'm Ara Topouzian, and this is The Idea Sandwich, where we mix the right layers of creativity, business, and life to make something worth biting into. Because sometimes one good idea can change the way we see everything else. Small talk can get a bad reputation. A lot of people say they hate it. They call it superficial, meaningless, a big waste of time. Let's just skip the small talk and get to the real conversation. We've all heard that before. But I've come to believe that small talk isn't the obstacle to meaningful relationships. It's actually the doorway. In fact, some of the most important relationships in my life started with conversations about absolutely nothing. Isn't that how Jerry Seinfeld made his millions, a show about nothing? It could be the weather, a cup of coffee, sports team, a flight delay, a mutual acquaintance. Doesn't have to be anything profound. Yet somehow those seemingly passive exchanges became friendships, business relationships, partnerships, and opportunities that lasted for decades. So maybe small talk isn't small at all. Maybe, just maybe, it's one of the most underrated leadership skills we have. I've attended hundreds of networking events, board meetings, conferences, fundraisers, you name it, and I've noticed something. Many people walk into a room looking for the important conversation. They're scanning for the CEO, the investor. You could see that they're reading name badges. They're looking for the board chair, perhaps. They're looking for the person they think can help them. We've all been in this situation. They stand in front of you like a zombie, waiting for any possible way to interject into an existing conversation you may be having with someone. They stare at you, hoping you'll stop the conversation and include them in. Oh, I hate it. It's cringy for sure. But human relationships just don't work that way. Trust rarely begins with a strategic conversation. It begins with a human one. Before people care about your ideas, they want to know whether they can even enjoy talking to you. Before they trust your leadership, they want to know whether you're approachable. Before they buy into your vision, they want to know whether you see them as a person. Small talk can often be that bridge. As a musician, I've spent years performing in front of audiences. People often assume the performance begins when the actual music starts, but it doesn't. The performance begins the moment you walk into the room. It's how you react to the people, the audience, how you talk to them, interact with them. That's when people are already deciding how they feel. Not judging necessarily, just sensing. Are you approachable, warm, present? Well, the same thing happens in leadership. Every interaction sends a signal, and some of the strongest signals are transmitted before any serious discussion takes place. Sometimes a 2-minute conversation before a meeting tells people more about your leadership style than the meeting itself. Small talk isn't about talking, okay? Here's what I've eventually learned. The small talkers aren't great talkers. They're great listeners. And there's a difference. Many people enter conversations trying to be interesting. The best communicators try to be interested. That's a subtle distinction. One focuses on impressing. The other focuses on understanding. When someone feels genuinely heard, the conversation becomes memorable, even if you've never discussed anything particularly important. I think small talk has actually become harder in today's society. We're living in the world of texting, emails, Zoom, virtual meetings, and social media. People are communicating constantly, yet many feel increasingly disconnected. We know more people, but often know fewer people deeply. And because we're so busy, we tend to jump straight to business. This happens all the time, unfortunately. We go straight to the agenda, right to the transaction. But relationships aren't about transactions. They're built through accumulated moments. They could be tiny moments, a quick conversation before a meeting, remembering someone's kid graduated, asking about a recent vacation, following up on something they mentioned 3 months ago. Those moments compound over time, just like trust compounds over time. One of my favorite things to do at events is simply observe. I've noticed something fascinating. People who leave the strongest impressions are not always the most polished speakers. They're often the people who make others feel comfortable. The person who introduces someone standing alone, the person who remembers a name, that's big, by the way, the person who asks thoughtful questions, the person who creates connection. Years later, people often forget the presentation. They remember how someone made them feel. So good small talk communicates several things all at the same time. It says, I see you, that I'm interested in you, and that you matter, and I'm willing to slow down and engage with you. And those signals matter, especially in leadership, because leadership isn't simply directing people. Leadership is creating an environment where people feel valued. And sometimes that starts with something as simple as asking, how was your weekend? And actually caring about the answer. Few things I've learned. Ask follow-up questions. Most people ask a question and immediately move on. The magic often happens in the second question. Remember details. People are amazed when you remember something they told you months ago. Listen for stories instead of facts. Stories reveal values, personality, motivations. Be curious. Curiosity is one of the most attractive qualities a leader can possess. And perhaps most importantly, don't treat small talk as a hurdle before the real conversation. Treat it as part of the real conversation. I've come to believe that leadership often happens in places we overlook. It's not in the boardrooms, not just during presentations or strategic planning sessions. Sometimes leadership happens in the hallway, at a coffee shop, before a meeting begins, or after an event. In conversations that just seem ordinary, because small talk isn't really about exchanging information, it's about building connection. And connection is where trust begins. The next time you're tempted to dismiss small talk as meaningless, remember this. Many of life's biggest opportunities, strongest relationships, and most meaningful partnerships start with a conversation that seems small at the time. It just didn't stay small. Thank you for listening to the Idea Sandwich. Until next time, pay attention to the little conversations. They often lead to the biggest things.